Hi guys, Iron Cameraman is here. It seems only a short while ago we were discussing the momentous part 1 of episode 70 with the main Astro Toilet, and then comes the more momentous part 2 of episode 70, where we saw a lot of interesting things and things we never even dreamed of in our dreams. Dafuk Boom has finally lifted the veil of secrecy, and we end up learning about the past life of a secret agent who has long been featured on the show as Character X, a character of legend. In addition, we have on hand a contract between Astro Toilets and Skibidi Toilets. Here we see the faces of the commanders-in-chief of these races. But have you ever wondered what exactly is written here and whether it is possible to decipher these words at all? What is not less important is the warehouse itself, where you can notice a huge number of different details that refer us to the previous series. And that's not all, it's just a small part of what I got for you today. So now you'll find out all the secrets and details of part 2 of episode 70. And to start our video, you just need to like and subscribe to the channel, because if we get 500 likes, I'll do a deep analysis of Dafuk's past life. And I'll even tell you about all the scientists we see in this photo. So give me a like, sit back, grab some cookies and tea, and let's get this cool journey started. We start with the scene in the elevator, where the lights suddenly went out and from above someone started breaking it to get inside. It turned out to be a Skibidi bandit who had a cameraman with a bomb on his back as a hostage. But in fact, if you look closely, it turns out that he is not a hostage, but just a corpse. This poor cameraman has been dead for a long time, and he is being held by the bandit's hand like a marionette. So from our angle, it looks like he is standing. It was intended to keep the agents from taking any action while the bandit did his dirty work, and he was successful. Not only did he divert attention, but he also managed to get down and even stabbed one of the agents. By the way, the explosion itself was not an ordinary explosion, but a poisonous one, you can tell by the green smoke. And it is because of the poison that we see the perfect hole here. The bandit himself is also equipped with toxin. He has a cistern behind him from where he takes it. And already from this cannon on his hand, he makes the shot. Of course, no one likes such an arrangement. And the plunger team, with all their might, start shooting everything. In the end, it turns out that this bandit has a self-destruct button, because we can hear the characteristic sound of a timer, after the expiration of which everyone in the environment would die. However, the damaged cameraman sacrificed his life, thus saving all the other guys. It's sad that he died, so let's at least support this poor guy with likes. Consider that a like is press F, even though he was a robot and not real. And inside the series, still want to show Dafuk Boom, if he suddenly watches this video, that this death was not useless, and he sacrificed himself for a good cause. In general, put a like and see how many of us. Next, we see that the elevator is no longer holding the load and is wobbling, so the dark speaker, with the help of his jetpack, takes turns lifting everyone up to the 5th floor. By the way, let's talk a little about floors. At the moment when the plunger rises, you can see the number 4. This is the same floor we saw in episode 68. Where the agents were chased by a huge Skibidi engineer with glasses. It's not the first time we are shown exactly the 4th floor. In the scenes with the elevator, probably this is a reference to the Chinese omen. After all, in Chinese, the number 4 is consonant with the word death. They even have no button 4 in some elevators. Then Plunger is just like Spider-Man, using his retractable knuckle claws to climb up the wall and won't even agree to give his hand to Dark Speaker. And again, he has this animosity because of the situation in episode 69, when the Dark Speaker didn't listen to him and closed the doors. We've already talked about this 100 times in other reviews. So let's look at the next scene. The agents, after escaping from the falling elevator, found themselves in a corridor filled with a huge number of Skibidi guards, who most likely went out to guard and protect the 5th floor of the laboratory. After all, as we have already realized, it is in this floor is this very room with important documents. By the way, these guards are very similar to the toilets, which we saw through the red cameraman's tablet in the additional scene of season 22. And since there we can see how the scientist went further, it means that he is most likely on another floor, and I can even guess which one. Because as we remember, the plunger team originally turned right, not left. So they have a much longer way to get to the scientist, because they have to take the long route so they don't die and try to take fewer risks. About where exactly is the scientist, you will soon guess yourself. I will tell you about a couple of very cool details that will give us the answer to this question. Just watch the video to the end and pay attention, because now begins the most interesting moment in part 2. It turns out that Plunger has the ability to turn on the night vision effect on his camera. Many people might think that this is the work of Dafuk Boom, because he has hacked into cameramen before and hooked something over their screens. Just here, the color matches his trademark green. However, it is definitely not him, because there is no recording error in the upper right corner, as it was in 68 and 67 episodes. And also because we're seeing night vision. And it just so happens that night vision shows everything in green. Suddenly, the lights come back on and the agents are immediately spotted by one of the guards. Of course, the red cameraman opens the door with the logo of Skibidi Toilets as quickly as possible to escape the lasers. At the moment when the door opens here, you can notice an inscription, Test Lab. And below this inscription, you can notice some serial number. That is, in fact, the original purpose of this lab, when there were still people here, was testing. Remember this point? It will come in handy. Next, the agents successfully managed to close all the doors along the way, thus blocking the way for the enemies. And then the red cameraman opens perhaps the most important gate in the history of Skibidi Toilet. This is essentially a trophy warehouse. Here you can notice a large collection of many parts stolen from different agents. But that's not the most interesting part. At the moment when they enter the warehouse and the plunger quickly turns his head, at that moment for a split second we can see the scout's Skibidi. This is the one who's going to kill the red cameraman later. He's been inside that warehouse all along. And by the way, when he saw that someone opened the gate, he quickly managed to hide behind this blue box, so that at an unexpected moment to come out and kill the agents. By the way, the scout himself has improved, and his most important acquisition is of course the TV. Combined with his good hiding tactics, it's a very strong bundle. He was a very strong and dangerous fighter, but it's good that he was killed. But that's not all. We'll talk more about him soon. Here, when Plunger began to examine normally Trophy Warehouse, you can see a lot of things, but I will mention only the most interesting. For example, there is a gun spider agent from the 13th episode. We can also see the Titan Speakerman's gun, and above it, in general, part of the arm cameraman Titan, which he lost in episode 20 after the battle with G-Man. To the right, the Skibidi have a trophy in the form of one of the Titan's Speakerman speakers. But what is most interesting personally for me is this sword with a red line. This sword we have not seen anywhere, and it is very strange, because this is a room of trophies, and here everything has some history and is a reference. But this thing is an exception. I have a theory for you, though. In my opinion, this sword was originally supposed to be brought to the Titan speaker. I think so because red is his signature color. But by the way, the scientist did not have time to give weapons, or simply changed his mind, and instead of them made cannons well hands. In any case, Speakerman for a long time was infected, and if you remember, it was Skibidi Toilets improved it to version 2.0. So it's likely that this Skibidi Scholar Sword was created as an accessory to the rest of his enhancement. However, something went wrong, and this sword became just a pretty thing for the wall. What do you think about it, and whose sword is it? Write in the comments, it will be interesting to read. Suddenly, the plunger notices some interesting paper on the table. When he picks it up, he sees pictures of a scientist and an astro toilet along with a text in Greek. Of course, there is no point in trying to translate this text. This paper is most likely a contract of alliance partition between the Astro Toilets and the Skibidi Toilets. And this is likely because these races don't really get along anymore, and so a paper to partition the territory between the regular and Astro Toilets could be some kind of peaceful solution so they don't kill each other. But as we realize with episode 70 part 1, even with the peace treaty in place, the main Astro Toilet is so angry at everyone that he kills DJ without asking from the back. So we should definitely expect instability between these two races, and they will most likely interfere with each other at every opportunity. I would also like to draw your attention to the format of the document itself. Here you can notice that instead of signatures, toilets use photos. And in the course of the photo is taken from the moment of the meeting itself. This is such a way to approve the document, because if they used the same photo of their face every time, then such documents would be easy to falsify. If we take into account all of the above, just by looking at these photos and their emotions, we can immediately feel this anger and dislike for each other. After that, we look up and see something very interesting. Let's immediately notice the date, February 7th. The most interesting thing is that the very first series of Skibidi Toilets was released on February 7th. On this account, I have two theories. Or it is just a reference to the fact that soon, the birthday of the series, and that's it. Or the date makes more sense. What if February 7 is the day the very first Skibidi Toilet appeared? Notice the face of the man shaking Dafuku's hand. His face looks a lot like the face of that very first toilet. Just above the photos, we see text that reads, "The government sponsored the underground lab as a new option for a deal." So this photo shows the deal between the government and the lab. And the headline reads that the Alpha Hills Laboratory has a new administrator. It begs the question, who is Dafuk? Is he the new administrator, or is he a state representative? In short, I'm leaning more towards the answer that he is a new administrator who was sent by the government. But what "as a new deal option" means, I didn't get it, so I'll probably talk about it in the next video. Subscribe to the channel so you don't miss it. What is clear for sure is that Dafuk was somehow involved in the appearance of the Skibidi Toilets, or at least witnessed the event. We'll have time to talk about that. Yet guys, it's a very complicated topic, so let's keep going. And then immediately begins another cool scene where the red cameraman points his finger at the books with the emblem of TV men and wonders what these books are actually doing on the table of the main laboratory of Skibidi Toilets. Good question, but it still seems to me that if there are traitors among the Twee men, it's a particular Twee men, not the race as a whole. Or maybe these books Skibidi Toilets were simply stolen from the TV men. This robber, by the way, could be this Skibidi scout. But in the case of theft, the TV men were obliged to inform the cameramen about it because it is a very important leak which cannot be kept silent. And judging by the emotions of the red cameraman, the cameramen were not aware of it at all. So the theory of betrayal is slowly becoming true. What is interesting behind the back of the red cameraman, as well as during the merge frame, you can see the lens, which was stolen by the scout in the 42nd episode. I still in the parsing plums about it said, and it turns out I was right, because the same scout we saw in part 2. So in order not to miss such videos with plums and my theories, click on subscribe and bell. In the moment, the scout stabs the red cameraman in the back and throws him against the glass stand with tremendous force. We've already talked about the scout, but we didn't talk about his glow. Turns out when agents see a red glow, they get a screen that says "kill yourself." And that's why cameraman wanted to kill himself. It turns out that the inscriptions in front of the screen for cameramen are so important that it is difficult for them to resist what is written there, and it works on them like hypnosis. By the way, I will talk more about this theory in a future video. Plunger was staring at the TV for so long that he started to reach for his head with his hands or to his thorny plunger to injure himself. However, Dark Speaker manages to save him and another cameraman. Plunger, when already turned away, quickly put on the same lens, which before his death he was given a large cameraman at the end of 68 episode when they were in the elevator. So without exaggeration, this last act of the large cameraman once again saved the agents' lives. After all, if it wasn't for that lens, Plunger wouldn't have been able to kill the scout. In the end, Dark Speaker saved Plunger, Plunger saved Dark Speaker, large cameraman saved everyone, and red cameraman died. Well, let's not get sad. The main thing is that at least Plunger managed to stop this sick scum in a very epic way. After all this, Dark Speaker and Plunger take everything they need from the stands to continue the search for the scientist. And in addition to the equipment, Plunger grabs the remote to open the right doors and gates. But unfortunately, the tablet, with the help of which the red cameraman had access to all the cameras of the laboratory, could not be taken because it was critically damaged during the fall. So now Plunger and Dark Speaker will have to blindly search for the scientist. And what's even sadder, of all the agents who entered the lab at the end of episode 67, only 2 survived. It is certainly very sad, but I hope at least in the next 3 parts, where supposedly there should be a meeting with the scientist, none of the agents will die, or at least damaged, but remain alive. Part 2 came out very rich in details. Friends, so I'm preparing another video in which I will review a couple more secrets that I did not have time to tell you today. Give me a like if you're waiting for the continuation of the showdown, and while I'm doing it, you can watch my other videos that have appeared on the screen. That was Iron Cameraman. Bye-bye.